accepted the prognosis that, you have a disease which will inevitably kill you.
Then their wives and lovers.
You always think, what did I do? Did I do something to deserve this?
Then children. 17,000 people. More than half are dead. 2 million more could get it. AIDS, a national inquiry. Next time on Frontline.
Tuesday evening at 9 o'clock.
This is viewer-supported WCBB, taking a moment to thank our members and friends for making today's programming possible.
Candlepin action is made possible in part through a grant from Shaw's Supermarkets, where you're someone special.
Competition in the top bowlers in Maine. Brought to you by the Maine Candlepin Bowling Association. Now here are your hosts, Dick Leone and Chuck Bullitt.
Well, good afternoon once again, and welcome to Maine Candlepin Bowling Action. My name is Chuck Bullitt, my co-host Dick Leone. We're so glad to be back with you after a couple of weeks of a hiatus for Pledge Week on your public broadcasting station. But once again, we're back, and this time with professional and amateur bowling pairings. Dick Leone, what do we have up today? And perhaps you can explain the whole concept here.
Well, Chuck, this is an exciting kind of concept in bowling, as it was very successful last year, as most people who are involved know, and of course the viewers can attest to. There were 4 different tournaments held throughout the state, and the top 8 bowlers in each of those tournaments qualified for the TV pairings. Ladies professional, men's professional, of course, ladies and men's amateurs. And those people, of course, are waiting in the wings to square off against one another. They have matched them up according to ability as far as handicap is concerned, and we'll talk a little more about that as we get into it. It's based on a top average for the male bowler of 125, and for the female bowlers of 115, and then there's an 85% ratio that is used to match things up, or even them out, if you will, according to their handicap. So we'll talk more about that, as I said, into the show. But we've got a lot of exciting amateurs and a lot of very qualified professionals that are just waiting to get on those lanes.
Terrific. We have 4 bowlers that are standing by on the deck right now, and we'll call them right up as we get to it and let them take their warm-up shots. Dick, perhaps you can give us some background on our bowlers here today.
Okay, we're going to also mention that on our show we've got for the number 1 seed, Gene Poland is the amateur, and the pro matched up with Gene is Mike Buzzlechuck out of the Bowlerama lanes in Sanford. Gene is out of the Colonial lanes in Westbrook. And the number 16 seed qualifying team will pit Tom Ivers out of the Eastwood lanes in Ellsworth,
who's on your screen right now,
against the Mary Lebrecht pro from Oxford Hill lanes in South Paris. So as I said, the handicap is based on, for a male, 125, and the female, 115. You take the person's average and deduct that average from the 125 or the 115, depending on whether they're male or female, and then take 85% of that figure, and that gives the individual bowler the handicap that they will start with. And we'll put that handicap, as you'll see it on the screen, by to the right of Carol Little. Once we get the camera over there in that direction, you'll notice that the handicap is already posted, and that will go automatically go in on the first box of each of the respective strings.
And of course the amateur bowls the first box here, with the pro coming in the second and bowling the last and final frame. Also, we're talking about some prize money here today.
Yeah, we're talking big prize money, Chuck. Once again, a total of over $3,500 is at stake here for this 5 weeks of culmination, and it'll wind down, and eventually, of course, the winning pair will take home a total of $800, plus any bonuses that they might pick up along the way.
Sure.
Mike Buzzlechuck on the approach now, going through his customary warm-up. As I said, he will be teaming up with Jeannie Poland out of the Colonial lanes in Westbrook. They're the number 1 team coming in, and they will be meeting the number 16 seed out of the Ellsworth lanes, Tom Ivers, and Mary Lebrecht out of Oxford Hills in South Paris. on the line today, as we have had in past sessions, John Killinger, the law blind judge. He's out of Portland, and bowls out of the big 20 lanes in Scarborough. He's a good man to have over there with the whistle in hand. And Tom Ivers, the amateur, starts off with an exciting 9-pin drop here as we're off and running once again, Chuck. And this should be a great one. It's like a lot like Scotch doubles, if you're familiar with that in bowling and golf. It's really exciting. And Tom starts out with a spare. And he's the amateur, so Mary Lebrecq says, hey, that's great. Get us off on the right foot. And the professional, Mary Lebrecq, who has been bowling for over 14 years, she hails out of Norway. And we add that right in so that it's a 4-pin bonus on that opening spare. Now, as you look at the score over there, as Carol has posted it, it looks like that's quite a mark when she's got 30. But in effect, we have added the 16 pins in, of course, for the handicap. So that's why it's so inflated looking. So after one, the number 16 seed has 30, and then the 7 box, of course, moves him to 37. Now on the lane, Jeannie Poland. And Jean is an amateur, and she has 21 pins for her handicap. I'm sure a little bit of nervousness here in the opening frame as the camera and the lights and all the hoopla come into play. And she comes up with a 5 box. And so after one, it's 30 to 26 with the team of Ivers and Lebrecq on top by 4. Now Mike Buzelchuk, who's out of the Bolorama in Sanford. Mike was on our show earlier this year, if you remember, in the singles.
Did exceptionally well.
Oh, nice spare as Mike gets everything to go for him, and a spread out split down there, and he showed why he's the pro, and converted the difficult spare, as you can see on the replay here, right on the 1 pin, and get the 1 pin to kick off the sideboard, come across the back of the plate. And Tom gets that ball right in the pocket, leaves himself a difficult split, where he's got the 5, 9, and the 7 over in the left-hand corner. Tom off the mark a little. He's a mill worker in the Champion Paper Company. Has a high single of 182. Nothing to sneeze at. 399 high triple and a 620 for a high 5 for Tom as he sits down. As you'll notice, they alternate every box. It's the amateur, then the pro, and a 7 box in the 3rd frame puts the Ivers-Lebrecq team at 44, with a spare conversion very possible here for Mary. And she's right on the head pin, gets the 10 to wiggle, and it finally does fall. All right. She says, well, I thought it was going to go, but it kind of worried me a little bit. So we've got ourselves quite a match here. As you can see on the replay, she got it a little bit thin, but it got the 10 to wobble and finally keel over. Now, Jean coming back a little bit more at ease there in the her second frame. As she puts 6 on the spare that Mike left up there for her. And right on the deadwood, and not quite powerful enough. She's got a very slow ball and didn't seem to have enough power to drive through to catch the 9-10 for the spare. But she picks up 2 more pins and an 8 box. As she sits and Mike Buzelchuk comes back up. Mike is a utility worker at the Water District and has some great credentials, a 195 high, a 454 high triple, and a high 5 of 684. Right on the head pin as he buries that first ball and leaves himself with a definite spare here with the 4-7 covered by a wood. Mike doesn't waste it as he converts once again. So Mike is 2 for 2 in the spare category as he sits down. And team of Tom Ivers and Mary Lebrecq, who trail by 6, with both having spares up in the 4th frame. See what Tom can put on the spare by Mary. He punches a little heavy on the head pin, leaves the 4-7 on the left side with a 6-10. He does have a double deadwood on the right side in front of the 6-pin. He may have to try and catch that angled wood on the red line and drive the other wood into the 6-10 with the angled wood catching this 4-7. He did. He got it just perfectly. Perfectly. That's the way you diagram it, and that's the way you shoot it. So we're starting out with quite an exciting match here, Chuck, in our Scotch doubles.
I wonder what Tom is doing here in the amateur ranks Tuesday.
He sure looks pretty professional to me. Mary punches through the 2-8. 2 on that spare. Comes right back with a nice try on the spare. She leaves the 7-10 goalpost with a host of deadwood down there in the middle of the plate. Mary lives in Norway, has a high single of 158, a triple of 368, and a high 5 of 614. She's been on the show every year and has the distinction of beating Chip Carson on TV and forcing the great Charles Milan to overtime. So she's a good one. That's right. Jean Poland is loosening up as she's getting better with every box, Chuck. She comes with a 9 drop on the spare. And
I don't care how slow that ball is, Dick. It seems to just churn them up.
It's accurate. That's what counts. And she picks it up a little thin. A little thin, but she got the 7-pin to fall. And Poland and Buzzlechuck have 2 in a row. One more, and they've got some bonus money. So they have come on in the early going here, and they have taken a lead. Through 4, they lead by 9. And Mike gets a roll off the deadwood that came out of the gutter, and he gets 6. As he leaves himself with the 2, 4, 7, and the 9-pin. Double wood in front of the 2. 13-pin lead for Buzzlechuck and Poland as they come in with the number 1 seed. And he gets everything to roll, and finally the kickback. And Mike is perfect on the day. He's got 3 spares out of 3 boxes, so he's making everyone count up there. And bonus money, as you can see on the replay, a good carry from the sideboard. So $25 in bonus money for the team of Poland and Buzzlechuck. And Tom comes right back, missed the head pin, but does get himself a difficult but a possible spare here if he can catch that number 1 pin, get a little action. He does have 2 deadwood on the plate, one particularly that may help in the back. And he gets a good roll out of the front. The front deadwood he used beautifully as he split the number 1 pin and the deadwood, and then of course got the kickback. As you'll see on the replay, used it beautifully, just caught the tip of the deadwood.
And Dick, I'll tell you, the crowd really appreciates this kind of bowling here today.
You can't help but appreciate it when you see amateurs come up here and look like professionals, and they just really sort of take to it, I guess, as the lights and the camera are no longer awesome to them. Mary goes to the right side of the 4 horsemen, and it's a 10 box and 106. A great opening string here for the number 1 team and the number 16 squaring off. 106 after 8 frames. Jean on a spare here, as Mike has had 3 spares in a row, and Jean is really coming on strong herself. She goes to the right side, does get 5. Leaves the 1, 2, 4, 6, 10 for another spare and more bonus money. Just a little to the right as she goes through the hole. So a 20-point lead, or a 20-pin lead, I should say, opened up by Poland and Buzzlechuck. And a good 8 box for Jean as she sits down, and a 108 against the 96 through 7 completed. Mike off a little to the right side, but leaves himself with a tough spare, but it is possible. The 1, 2, 4, and the 10 pin. There is a deadwood, or the front of the 10 pin that... Oh, he goes through the hole this time. This is the first time in 4 boxes that he has failed to mark, as he has really been right on the money thus far. Goes through again in the 6th box. So Poland and Buzzlechuck move to 114, and that closes the gap just a little bit as Ivers and Lebrec are 106. So an 8-pin lead with 2 frames to go, and a very interesting opening match here. Pro-Am, and look at this one. Look at this one. Tom Ivers has been all around that head pin throughout the first string, and I'll tell you,
and you
he's
hear
got a great ball, Chuck.
You hear Mary say, all right, Tom, that's the way to go.
Mary says, am I glad I drew him for a partner?
As you see there on the replay. A great strike for Tom
indeed.
Ivers.
He had that one all over the head pin. There was no doubt about it, as Mary Lebrec will try to fill with 2 balls on this strike. She just misses the head pin, leaves the 4 horsemen and the 8 pin. 4 horsemen on the right side. Another ball. And she gives it a good run. She gets a 7 fill. So they move to 123. And an 8 box on top of that, closing out with a 131 string. A great opening string here. 131 for Evers and Lebrec. As Poland punches out on the right side, the 3-9. She has the half Worcester right. She comes up with a 5 box, so she'll move to 119. Well, that changes the complexion here. A great comeback, and a lot of pressure now put on the number 1 seed team, Gene Poland and Mike Buzzlechuck, as they need a mark here in the closing frame. They had led throughout, and now they need a mark. Mike right on the head pin, and a little bit thin. However, he gets himself quite a split down there. He does have 2 deadwood on the plate, 1 out, about 18 inches or so away from the 5 pin, and the other back along the 7, 8. He'll have to give that front deadwood a ride, and hope he can get a little bit of action at the back. Well, he got it to move, but it didn't spread out the way he had hoped. So it looks like the number 16 seed Tom Ivers and Mary Lebrec will move on here as they come from behind with a thrilling victory, 131 to 127.
All right, Dick. Well, we've seen one of the more interesting matches, one of the most interesting matches that I've seen since we've come back here. And Pro-Am doubles, just like Scotch doubles, are always exciting. And it's something that you saw here last year in Maine Candlepin bowling action, something that we're doing again this year, and it proves to be a lot of fun. While Dick gets set up to interview our bowlers, we'd like to run down the house schedule for you in the next couple of weeks. Here's what we have for league activity throughout the state. Men's and ladies team in our eastern Maine bowling houses. For April 5th and 6th, the men's and ladies teams will be bowling at the Family Bowling Center. Now, that's in Rockland, and that's a series that will also see the men's marathon culminate on April 12th. That's also in Rockland at the Family Bowling Center. April 12th and 13th, we'll also be watching the Western Maine Pro League, and that is at houses throughout the entire state of Maine, at least in western sections. And we'd like to invite you to go out to your local bowling house and check out some of this league activity. It's some of the best bowling that you'll see around. Right now, standing by with our bowlers, here's Dick Leone.
Thanks a lot, Chuck. And Gene, you throw a slow ball, but you really, after the first box, you really came on.
Oh, I tried.
You tried. Well, you did more than that. You did a great job. And after, you could see a little nervousness, but then you got out of the nervous stage, and you really did a great job and complimented yourself very nicely with Mike, who had 3 spares right in a row there and kind of got you people off and running.
Yep, thank you.
Welcome. Mike, a little tough break on the end. You people had command of the string right through to the the last 2 boxes, and then all of a sudden you a little thin on the head pin and didn't get a break on the deadwood.
Yeah, we had a couple bad boxes there, and you usually catch up there, especially in a one-string match. And at the end, that was kind of a hard split, but hey, that's the breaks of the game.
Well, we want to present you with this check. I'll give it to the woman. How's that? You decide who gets what. But thanks again for being on the show. A great job, and good to see you again, Mike. Okay, for the opening round, I would say that was a super comeback. You were a little bit tight, and you're the professional, and the amateur came on here and showed that anybody can do it in a one-string match. I think that's what makes it so interesting and so much fun, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
Tom, yes, it is.
Your ball was right in there, all over the head pin, and then the last 2 or 3 times you got onto the lane, it just exploded, of course, with that strike, and that was the big one, of course, that put them away here in the final 8th and or 9th and 10th frames.
Yes. Well, I had a little action on my ball. It seemed to be working pretty good.
Mary was a little bit off the head pin, and you just sort of made up the difference, which is the way this is supposed to work.
Right, yes, it is.
Well, a great opening round, and the number 16 seed moves on, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you in the upcoming shows. Once again, Mary LeBrecq and Tom Ivers, and great job. Thank you very much. We'll be back with more bowling after this message.
You can join in the fun of Maine Candlepin action with the last box jackpot. Send a card with your name, address, and phone number to Maine Candlepin action, Post Office Box 234, Raymond, Maine 04071. Before each program, we draw out 1 card. Then if the winner of the last game gets a strike in his last box, the viewer whose card is drawn wins a $50 food gift certificate. If the winner bowls a spare in his last box, then our viewer wins a $25 certificate. Or the viewer gets a $1 certificate for every pin the winner knocks down in the last box. So drop us a card, give us your comments, and be sure to give us your name, address, and phone number, and you may be our lucky winner. Our address again is Maine Candlepin Action, Post Office Box 234, Raymond, Maine 04071. And good luck.
Larry Billings, who is the amateur, and he's out of the Oxford Hill lanes in South Paris, and he'll be paired up with a good one, Dot Petty, the professional, and she's out of the Big 20 lanes in Scarborough. They go against the number 15 seed team, Sarah Wilcox, the amateur from the Family Bowling Center in Rockland, and John Richardson, the professional out of the Saco Valley lanes in Fryeburg. And John has been on our show as a singles contestant not too many weeks ago. So we've got, again, an exciting matchup as on the lanes right now. Going through the customary warm-up would be Sarah Wilcox. And Sarah is a restaurant owner, The Haven in West Rockport, as she goes through her warm-ups, and she lives in Camden. Her partner, as I mentioned, is John Richardson. John is a resident of Bridgeton and works for the S.D. Warren Company in Westbrook. That's quite a ways to travel every day, but I guess John is probably used to it, as he's been doing that for a while. He opens up with a nice spare in his 2 balls there. He probably wanted to save that one. And coming up for the other team, if you will, Larry Billings. And he's out of the Oxford Hill lanes. He's a woodsman and has been bowling for some 5 years. I'm sure that a little nervousness in some of these amateurs, but that's what makes it so exciting, as we saw in that opening match, Chuck. A great one, 131 string to a 127 for the losers, Gene Poland and Mike Buzzlechuck, as they led throughout the entire string until the 8th box, and then a strike kind of put it away, as the amateur Tom Ivers came up with a key mark, and that's all it took, as they won by 4. Dot Petty on the approach right now as she throws a strike, and I'm sure she'd like to save that one as she warms up with a strike. And Dot, of course, no stranger to the lanes, as she has been bowling for over 25 years now and has so many awards and accolades that it would take me probably an hour's show just to run down through those. But
also, I'd like to mention quite quickly, money won during this tournament will be going to a particular cause, I believe, in Guilford, New Hampshire. Is that correct?
Well, we'll talk about that in the next matchup. Yes, there is something that will be going to Guilford, and yeah, we'll explain that to the fans. But as Sarah Wilcox opens up with a 5 drop. And, of course, the handicap for the Wilcox-Richardson team is 17, and the 7 box make it 24 on the first box, and John comes in storming with a 9-pin drop. He, as I said, it's been on the show before with the singles, certainly, and been on the this show every year. Goes to the left side. If he was going to miss, he really wanted to miss right because he did have a deadwood angle that might have carried the shot. Just like that. And John a little unhappy with himself for missing that one. You don't usually miss too many of those, of course. And the Wilcox-Richardson pair have a 34 after 2. Now, Larry Billings, first time on the show this year. He's married, has 4 children. And a good 8-pin drop as he leaves a 6-10 with 2 wood down there and another one coming across the plate. And that one will help him even more as he has 3 deadwood down there. All he wants to do is stay somewhere around that red line on the front deadwood. That should carry, with any luck, the 6-10 for a spare. He's right on it. And a good shot and an opening spare for the Billings Dot Petty team. Dot Petty works at Indisco, is a Portland native, and might mention that she's this year's Bowler of the Year on the Maine Pro Tour. And I'll tell you, that's just one of the many awards that have been bestowed upon this young lady who has been on the bowling circuit for a number of years and one of the best in not only in the state but in New England. As she misses, puts 7 on the opening mark by Billings, her partner, and with the 22 handicap that Larry Billings comes in with, Dot adds a 9 box, and the Billings Petty team go out in front by 14 after 2, 48-34. Carol Little over there on the scoreboard, and you'll see Carol in one of the upcoming shows as she qualified, and of course is a great bowler in her own right, Chuck.
That's right. And of course, we would like to thank her immensely for being our hostess here.
That's right. She's the hostess with the mostess, as they say. And Sarah Wilcox getting untracked here as she leaves the 4-7 for the 10 box and picks out just the 4 and a 9 box, moving them to 43 as John Richardson on the approach now. Well, he's right on the head pin once again, and he gets quite a split down there as he leaves himself to 7-9. He does have a deadwood angled on the right side of the 9-pin. He's going to have to hit that up above the red line and maybe try to get it to come across the plate. And he did. Beautiful. And he gets it to carry. That's an excellent spare, Chuck, as he played the deadwood to perfection. He got it to kick off the right sideboard, and it came across the plate. Here it is on the replay, and that's all he could do is snap it across and hope. And it worked.
I'll tell you, Dick, I'm not used to seeing these large scores in the opening boxes.
That's right. And the amateurs are doing a whale of a job, as they have in the past on this show. That's what makes it so exciting, because people can relate to that, Chuck. You know, they say, well, hey, if he can do it and he's got a 95 average or a 102 average, I can do it. And my average is about the same. So it's kind of nice. I lost that ball, and he loses 2 pins, of course. Has an opportunity to come back with an 8 box here as the 4-7 covered by Deadwood. And an 8 box it is as Larry Billings sits down, and Dot Petty, who has a single of high single of 178 to go with her high triple of 435 and a high 5 695 as she leaves the 4 Husband right along with the 8 for the spare. Dot also has a 1320 high 10 string total to her credit. Punches out just the 3-pin. She's married and, of course, has 2 children. works for the Indisco company in Scarborough. Nice cleanup as she gets 8. And Billings and Petty move to 64 after 4 completed frames. So Sarah Wilcox has a spare to fill here as John Richardson sat down on a spare. It's the last box. She just gets 2 as she went down to the right side, lost that ball. I'm sure a little bit of nerves. Right on the head pin as she got everything to go but the 7. Good second ball by Sarah. Sarah is, as I said, a restaurant owner in West Rockport. Has a high single of 126, high triple of 326, and a high 5 490. 17-pin handicap coming in, and of course Larry has a 22-pin handicap for the Petty and Billings team. Now John Richardson, after the 10 box by Wilcox, comes up with a diamond covered by a wood and the 7. Diamond right and the 7. Let's see if the diamond wins this time. Well, he got the diamond, but he didn't carry the 7 as the wood didn't fly over quite as much. Didn't have an awful lot of angle, but it was a good attempt. And a 9 box. 74 for Wilcox and Richardson after 6 frames. Larry Billings has a high single of 149 to go with a 391 high triple. That's a good high triple as he gets some delayed action down there. Leaves himself just 3 pins spread out, but he has a couple of deadwood down there that should definitely help in his quest for a spare here. He has a 585 high string total and a 1079 10 string total. Not bad at all. As he gets everything to go but the 10 box. The 10 box, the 10 pin. The 10 pin.
I'm sure he wished it had been a 10
That's
box.
right. The 10 box and 2. That's right. He had me so excited I twisted my tongue. And a 9. 73 as Larry sits down and Don Petty takes to the approach, and an 8-pin lead for Billings and Petty after 5. Dot a little thin on the head pin, but she does get a 6-pin drop. She leaves herself with the 3, 6, 10, and the 8 on the back part of the plate. 2 wood up front, which she's going to have to move around. And she does, but she didn't get the action she had hoped for. Leaves herself with the 3 and the 10 for a 10 box. And a good 10 box as she's one of the best at picking pins, I'll tell you. If anyone can do it, she can. As the replay, as she cut the 3-pin over, and it kicked off the sideboard, carried the 10. So a 9-pin lead now for the Billings and Petty team as they came in seeded number 2 against the number 15 seed Wilcox and Richardson team. See what Sarah can do with this one. Oh, she got the 10-pin. She wanted to go on the left side, catch that angled deadwood, and maybe give it a ride, see if she could carry the spare. That was a very difficult spare at best, however. And the 8 box. So Wilcox and Richardson right now struggling. Only 1 mark, and they got 2 on that one. And Billings and Petty only had the 1 mark in the opening frame, but they did put 7 on that. Well, John again right on the head pin, and he leaves himself a solid 5-pin for the spare. They need this one if they're going to get back into the match. Just 2 frames to go after this one for them. And John doesn't let this one go by the wayside as he right on the 5-pin for the spare. So 92 on the replay. You'll see it as John got most of that pin. 92 and a ball working for Wilcox Richardson. Billings off a little on the left side, but gets a good roll. And again, some delayed action as he's got the 5, 7, but he does have some deadwood down there that can or cannot help him. We'll see. The front deadwood probably is more of a hindrance to him. The back wood against the 5 really is the one that he'd like to get at, because that looks like it will go right across and carry the 7. But he's going to have to get by it. Oh, he couldn't quite carry it. You're going to have to hit that up high, and then he may lose the angle of catching the 7-pin. A real nice try by Larry Billings. He got it. Yeah, he got it that time.
A very
he
nice
did catch it.
And a great effort for one of our amateurs here today, Dick.
Sure was. And the amateurs have really proven to be professional in a lot of respects. Especially that Tom Ivers in the opening match. He really had a great first ball working, and I'll tell you, he made the difference, I think, in that one, as Mary Lebrecht struggled a little in the opening string, but Tom complimented her very nicely. And that's what you need when a team gets up there. It's a team approach. Well, Dot missed the object pin that time as she goes to the right side, trying to get the spare. As this match will tighten up considerably now with the spare for Wilcox and Richardson up there in the 8th box. A 10 box for Petty as she sits down, and her team has a 103. So it's 82 plus a ball here. See how much the Wilcox-Richardson team can close that gap, as they have just 2 frames to go here in the second match of the day. And another good one. And she's off the mark this time, went down on the 10-pin, just puts 1 on the mark. Okay, that was a foul, and so she loses the 1 even, and of course just gets the 10 for the spare conversion made by John. Of course, that's an unfortunate break for Sarah as she fouled. It must have been it was either a lob or a foot foul, and I didn't detect it.
I didn't
Chuck,
see it either.
but I did hear the word that it was a foul, so I'm not sure exactly what it was, but it was a foul. Unfortunate break for Wilcox and Richardson as they had a chance to close that gap, and now the pressure is really on John here in the final frame as they're at 100 with 1 to go. Well, they're just a little full this time as he'd been owning that head pin, and now he got it just a little too full, leaves the 4-7 with a 6-10. Does have 2 deadwood out front, and he's going to have to use that front deadwood and hope it's angled properly so he can carry it. It's a very difficult spare here in the closing frame. Now, he hit it just about where you wanted to, but it didn't carry. Once again, the deadwood can help you or kill you. And in this case, they died by the deadwood, unfortunately, on that shot. And again, he thought the deadwood was up against the 6-pin, but it didn't carry. So a 7 box and a 107 for John Richardson and Sarah Wilcox as they struggled in the late going, and an unfortunate foul cost them on the spare fill. Larry Billings comes right back with a head pin punch and leaves himself with a very difficult spare conversion here. But he and Dot Petty only need 5 pins in the last 2 frames, so there's no problem there, as he just picked up enough pins to win the match. And so Billings and Dot Petty will now move on. And a 9 box and a 12-pin lead, of course, but the lead is unimportant at this point, as Billings and Petty have won this second match of the day. Dot right on the head pin gets quite a split. Tried to use the deadwood, swing it around, but it didn't quite carry. And a nice hand for the Billings and Petty team as the number 2 seed move on now with a nice finish up there as a 121 string. And we'll go talk with Dot and Larry and the other pair.
All right, Dick, thank you. Larry Billings and Dot Petty moving on. They'll show up once again week number 4 of this Pro-Am series on Maine Candlepin bowling action. Of course, today we have seen our bottom seed, the team of Ivers Lebrecq, move on. And now Billings and Petty also moving on. They'll show up in week number 4, as we just mentioned. Also, don't forget, we have our last box jackpot coming up a little bit later on in the show. Your chance from your mail to perhaps win a gift certificate to do some shopping at a Shaw supermarket near you. Now, standing by with our bowlers, here's Dick Leone.
We're right here with Sarah and John, and a tough one. You had just 2 marks and couldn't really get an awful lot on either one of them, and a little nerves come into play there, Sarah.
A lot of nerves.
A lot of nerves. Well, it takes a lot of nerve to get up here, I'll tell you. It was a great showing, though, nevertheless. And John, as you know, very difficult. You've been here before on the singles, and you're on the head pin, then kind of got a little full in the end, and that's all they wrote for you, I guess.
Yeah, I'm just glad to pick up a 9-pin drop for a change.
That's right. I remember that. I wasn't going to mention it, though. I want to present you with this check, though, for being on the show, and congratulations, Sarah and John, for being great competitors. Okay, Sarah and John. Dot Petty, no stranger to the lanes, and Larry, you did a good job up there. You proved that the amateurs know what they're doing. Nevertheless, the lights didn't seem to bother you all that much, did they?
No, not really.
Dot,
He was, I guess.
Dot, you were. Yeah.
First ball I threw, the warm-up was it. That was it. No, he bowled very well. He carried me, no doubt about it.
I said that. I said, I hope Dot doesn't lose that one strike, because when you throw those in warm-up, you always want them back, don't you?
Yeah, I'd like to throw more than one ball as a warm-up. Right.
All right. Okay, well, you're going to be moving on, the number 2 seed, and you've hung tough, and a good match up here coming up in our 3rd one, so we're going to move along to that. But once again, congratulations to both of you in that opening win. Okay, great. And we'll be back with more after this.
You can join in the fun of Maine Candlepin action with the last box jackpot. Send a card with your name, address, and phone number to Maine Candlepin action, Post Office Box 234, Raymond, Maine 04071. Before each program, we draw out 1 card. Then, if the winner of the last game gets a strike in his last box, the viewer whose card is drawn wins a $50 food gift certificate. If the winner bowls a spare in his last box, then our viewer wins a $25 certificate. Or the viewer gets a $1 certificate for every pin the winner knocks down in the last box. So drop us a card, give us your comments, and be sure to give us your name, address, and phone number, and you may be our lucky winner. Our address again is Maine Candlepin Action, Post Office Box 234, Raymond, Maine 04071. And good luck.
Dispensed with warm-up frames. We did that during the break. Now we're all set with matchup number 3. Dick, who do we have up?
Okay, well, Moe Huot on the lane right now. He's the amateur on the Huot Cribby team, and he starts out with a 7-drop, catches a cap of the deadwood here as he tried to throw that across and carry the 10-pin in the corner, but comes right back with a good cleanup and a 9-box. Moe is the proprietor of the Rollaway Lanes in Biddeford, out of which I bowl, and of course Moe and I bowl on Wednesday evenings, as he bowls in other leagues too, but I bowl in just that one league, and we run up against them from time to time. So he's an excellent bowler, and his partner Pat Cribby, also an excellent bowler. She's the professional on this team, and she hails from Old Orchard Beach. Starts out with a 9-drop. Comes right back with a cap of the woods, so both of them caught the cap in their opening frames here, and cost them a spare and a decent pinfall. As she comes back now with a 10-box, and as you mentioned earlier, Chuck, they both come in with 14-pin handicaps. Louise Head, the amateur, on the lane now for the Head and Nelson Fanjoy team. She comes up with a good break here. She missed the head pin, but she does get 7 pins to fall. And she's out of the Saco Valley Lanes in Fryeburg. Lives in South Chatham, New Hampshire, right across the way. She works for Lavoie Concepts as advertising and marketing person. Right on the head pin, gets everything to go but the 8. Nice try for the spare. She has a great set of credentials here, Chuck. 159 high single, 353 high triple, and a 535 high 5.
And going out with a nice hand for that 10-box stick as well.
Yeah, she won the ladies doubles event in January, so she's a great bowler. And, of course, Nelson Fanjoy is no stranger to this show, as he's been on the singles show this year. And
he was on last year, too.
Was on last year as well, as he opens up with an 8-drop and goes to the left side, misses a spare here in the opening frame.
Nice display of community spirit by Nelson from this match. Dick, he said that if he happens to come up with any earnings, well, that's going to go right to the YMC Building Fund in Guilford.
That's right. Well, Moe a little bit off the head pin as he punches out the 2-8. Leaves himself with the half Worcester left. Morris has a high single of 180, high triple of 432 to go along with a 632 high 5. The first time on the show. He's married and has 3 children. Patty Cribby has been on the show for 3 years now as she gets again a 9-pin drop. She's got an explosive ball.
She sure does.
Once she gets it in the pocket, I'll tell you, she makes things happen. Goes down on that 10-pin, and again, the deadwood. 2 in a row for Patty Cribby as the deadwood has really hurt her here.
Back in college football, that was called running interference,
I guess. But they ran around the wrong end. As the 10-pin still standing down there, and Cribby and Huot are at 49 after 4. And a 1-pin lead through 2 frames for this team, Louise Head and Nelson Fanjoy. Once again, Louise right on that head pin, and she leaves the 5 with a wobbling 8. Some deadwood down around the plate, but they really won't help her all that much. You want to go right for the pins. And she does, and she gets the first spare of this match. And, of course, Nelson Fanjoy will see what he can do to add some bonus pins to this spare. On the replay, you see she's right on target. No question about it. Nelson off the right side, but he does get a 6 on the fill. Leaves the 4 Husband on the left side for the spare, and 2 in a row. Oh, he dropped that ball just a little bit early.
Remember, Nelson is a fast bowler, too.
Yes, he is.
Doesn't waste any time.
No, he goes right at it, and his ball gets down the lanes in a hurry, and he comes up with a 10-box. So, 11-point lead for Head and Fanjoy, as they are the number 3 seed team coming in. And Moe is going to be a little nervous. I haven't seen him do that in a long, long time. He's got to be somewhat nervous. He comes back right on the head pin this time. And he gets 5. He's got a couple of pins wobbling down there, but they'll settle down as he waits for the wood to stop. And a 10-box. So Moe, the competitor he is, comes right back and gets the 10. So they move to 59. As you can see on the replay, he got everything to go on that cleanup ball. And Patty just off the head pin just a bit that time. She's a admissions director down at UNE and has some great scores to her credit. She tried to get the 4 Husband right side with a 7 to go, but she just picked out the 1 pin. She has a 168 high single.
Compared to my 65?
That make you feel good, huh? Sure does. Well, she goes by on the left side, ends up with a 6-box. And so Huot and Cribby struggling here a little bit as they have not been able to mark. Head and Fanjoy have 1 spare to their credit and have opened up an 11-point lead, or pin lead, should say, after 4. 4 Husband left side with the 10-pin, as Louise Head, the amateur in this team, has been bowling for some 10 years, tries to pick up another spare. Just off the head pin. Leaves herself with the 1, 7, 10, the high-low jack. Louise is married, and as I said, she's conducted herself very nicely out there thus far as a 7-box now decreases that lead to just 8 pins through completed frames. And Nelson pounds the head pin, gets himself quite a split, however, as he leaves the 4-7 and the 10. Does have a deadwood out, probably 2 feet or so away from the 4-pin on the right side. And they tried to carry it by going off the kickback or the sideboard, and almost did. Nice try on the spare. And a 9-box. So that'll move Fanjoy and Head to 76. And once again, an 11-pin lead through 6 frames. Morris Huot, again, punching the left side as he pulls out the 2-8 for the half-Worcester left. Very difficult spare. Oh, Moe gets everything to go but the 4-7. Gave it a run. Morris is married and has 3 children as he comes up with the 10-box and 75 for the number 14 seeded team.
I mentioned that Moe was one of the few seniors on the Pro-Am series, Dick, and just again, I would have to say another example of the fact that it doesn't matter how old you are.
That's right.
Candlepin bowling is fun for everybody.
Whoa! Pat got everything to go but that 5-pin, and
well, due to a technical difficulty, we missed that last ball, but Pat Cribby sits down with a 10-box, and from there we pick it up. Action with Dick Leone, and coming on the approach, Louise Head.
Okay, we're back again, and Louise and Nelson, of course, enjoying an 11-pin lead as we're ready for the 7th frame for Louise Head. She off a little to the left side, but gets a good roll on the deadwood, and everything seems to fall except the 9-10. So she's got a little magic on that ball as she really gets them churning away. She's got 3 or 4 deadwood down there. So a definite spare possibility here for Louise Head. And right on target. So the amateur, Louise Head. On the replay, as you can see it, she wasted no time picking up that spare. The 2nd spare of the evening here for Head and Fanjoy. And Huot and Cribby have yet to put a mark on the board. Nelson Fanjoy puts 7 on the mark, and they move to 93 and have opened up an 18-pin lead through 7. Nelson looking over the deadwood here, see if he can give it a ride and pick up another spare. And he gets everything but the 9-pin. A nice try by Nelson Fanjoy. Nelson has a whopping high 10-string total of 1446 to his credit, as he caught the cap of the deadwood and a 9-box. So 102 and just 85 for Huot and Cribby, a 17-point deficit. And Moe Huot still hasn't got untracked until that ball, and he drops 9 of them, leaving the solid 5-pin. So Huot and Cribby going to have to come back here in the last 2 frames if they want to stay in contention for the money. Moe goes for the deadwood. Don't know as he really went for it, but he actually picked up the deadwood, and it caused his ball to jump right by the 5 and a 9-box. 94 after 9 as Patty Cribby loses that ball just a little bit prematurely, but does get a little bit of a roll. Leaves herself with the diamond left and the 7-pin. She's got a deadwood out in front of the 2-pin. She'll try to drive that, and she does. She picks up the spare. And that'll bring Morris Huot right back up, and Moe will have the fill, or the ball to put the fill on the Cribby Huot team 10th frame here, as John Killinger goes down and clears out the pin in the deadwood in the gutter. And Moe right on the head pin as he's just warming up. Moe just starting to find a range here in the last 2 boxes, and knowing Moe as I do, I'm sure he feels terribly that he didn't really get untracked earlier. But very difficult with just 5 boxes. I don't care who you are. It's very, very tough. 113 string and a fine 9 fill on that spare by Cribby. So Huot and Cribby finish at 113. And a good cleanup. Good cleanup here.
Excellent.
As almost a spare on that one by Louise Head from Saco Valley in Fryeburg. She comes up with a 10 box, and I'll tell you, she has done a yeoman's job out there on this team of Fanjoy and Louise Head. And they will move on. They're the number 3 seed, and they have defeated the number 14 seed, Moe Huot and Patty Cribby. And a 10 box and a 122 string for Louise Head and Nelson Fanjoy. Great finish, and that winds up our third final match, Chuck.
All right, Dick, thanks. And we are here back at the desk now. As Dick goes to set up, it's time for our last box jackpot of the afternoon. And this week's winner, from a postcard that came in the mail, we hope that you make it a point to get yours in, too, before the end of the show. This one from Mrs. Dorothy M. Carbonneau of Gorham, New Hampshire. Mrs. Dorothy Carbonneau will win a $10 gift certificate, good for a Shaw supermarket near her. And, of course, a 10 box was the last box bowled by the Fanjoy Head team this afternoon. And our congratulations goes to Dorothy. Now, standing by with our boulders, here's Dick Leone.
Thanks a lot, Chuck. And Patty Cribby and Moe Huot, congratulations for getting on the show, first of all. And very difficult, of course, that's just every other box, isn't it?
It is a little difficult, but you can't afford to miss those 9-pin drops.
You both got hurt with the first 2 frames. You both had the cap of a deadwood cost you a spare and, of course, a good fill.
Well, this happens in bowling, you know. And when I had a perfect chance to get the spare in that box and I missed it, you can't do that. I mean, you know, Pat had bad wood, but mine was a clear shot. So, hey, come on, it's
That's right.
it's the name of the game.
That's right. Okay.
Or anytime.
That's right. I would too, Patty. I want to present you with this check for being on the show, and our congratulations once again. Well, congratulations, Louise and Nelson. You did a real great job. You didn't get an awful lot of marks, but you got what you needed when you needed it, and did a good job of picking up pins.
Thanks.
You're welcome. You weren't nervous.
No.
Better job than I did. I didn't get no spares.
Well, you know, when the team approached too much. Okay, when the team approached, that's all it takes, right? And once again, we've got to move along, and we want to thank you. We'll be looking for you in the upcoming weeks. Thank you very much. We'll be back with Chuck now for the wrap-up.
Well, thanks, Dick. That wraps up another week of Maine Candlepin bowling action, and we'll be here again next week. Make sure to join us for week number 2 of the Pro-Am Tournament. We'll see you next week. Make sure to join us then. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for joining us this afternoon for Maine Candlepin Action, produced by the Maine Candlepin Bowling Association, whose members include All-Star Lane Sanford, Auburn Lanes Auburn, Bangor Brewer Lanes Brewer, Deacon Lanes Raymond, Big 20 Bowling Center Scarborough, Broadway Lanes Lincoln Center, Bucksport Lanes Bucksport, Bowlerama Sanford, Colonial Bowling Lanes Westbrook, DePatsy's Lanes Waldoboro, Eastward Lanes Ellsworth, Family Bowling Center Rockland, Good Time Lanes Lisbon Falls, Lakeside Lanes Lincoln, Lucky Strike Lanes Gardner, Oakland Park Lanes Rockport, Old Town Bowling Center Old Town, Oxford Hills Lane South Paris, Pittsfield Bowling Center Pittsfield, Pride's Corner Lanes Westbrook, Rocket Lanes Dover Foxcroft, Rollaway Lanes Biddeford, Saco Valley Lanes Fryeburg, Strike and Spare Lanes Keyser Falls, 20th Century Lanes Biddeford, and Vacation Land Bowling Center Saco. Be sure to join us again next Saturday here on your public television station for Maine Candlepin Action.
Candlepin Action is made possible in part through a grant from Shaw's Supermarkets, where you're someone special.
I'm Marty Stauffer. All animals leave behind signs of their passing, a story you'll learn to read as you begin tracking wildlife. Join me as we discover what kinds of creatures make what kinds of tracks and how you can follow them too. Next on Wild...